Well, good morning or good afternoon, depending on when and where in the world you're watching this video. But I've got with me today Ian Bliss, CEO at Northern Shield Resources, for an exploration update. Ian, good to see you today. I know you've had a few dental surgeries recently, so I appreciate you joining us, even if parts of your mouth are still frozen.
Thanks very much, Romeo, and thanks for everybody else for taking the time off some holidays to get this update. It's certainly not the best time to be giving a presentation after dental surgery and under the influence of painkillers, but nonetheless, we had a very exciting press release out this morning, so I just want to try to give a few minutes to flush that out in a little bit more detail. Before I get on with my short presentation, I do have to bring your attention to this forward-looking statement advisory, as this presentation may contain forward-looking statements. So just running through some of a very quick overview of the drilling to date. We'll start with some of the peripheral drill holes. Most of it took place in the Conquest zone, which we'll get into. A few of the holes took place more on the periphery. Some of those holes, 29, 30, and even 28, were testing, this portion of the large green magnetic low. The main thing to take away from that, it wasn't the most satisfactory drill results, but what we did see was a very large and intense what we call illite alteration. And this was illite altered rhyolite. This is the same rhyolite that we see in the Conquest zone, the same style of illite alteration. It's actually a beige rhyolite. The prospector calls it the green rhyolite because the illite actually alters it to these little green. We see very large intercepts of strongly illite and silicified rhyolite with pyrite. We know from surface sampling these are gold anomalous. And so further work has to be undertaken in here, but clearly there's a very large zone of illite silica pyrite alteration. Now, illite is one of the sort of middle zones of the alteration halo around an epithermal curve. So testing this part didn't hit it dead on by the looks of things, but certainly the alteration suggests that more work has to be undertaken in this area. What was kind of a surprise, we drilled one hole into a copper target up here, hole number 30. We didn't hit much copper mineralization, but what we did hit was very clear mineralized hydrothermal breccias, very similar to what we see in and around the Discovery Trench area. Two zones, one of the hydrothermal breccia itself, again, mineralized with pyrite, same silicification that we see in the Discovery Zone, another sort of zone a little bit deeper down of weakly hydrothermally altered vent breccias. So this is very similar to what we see in the Discovery Zone, and we know we have a structure that actually winds its way down from that intersection all the way down to just west of the main Conquest Trench. So this is quite a nice surprise. Further work obviously has to be undertaken in this area, but we thought this was more of a copper target based on 2021 drilling, but now we're back into clearly what looks like the epithermal gold system. Just south of that, I drilled a very short hole near, there's a surface showing discovered by the prospector with some very silicified rhyolite quartz veining. So we drilled that, didn't intersect what we saw on surface, but we did hit what looks like calaverite, so gold telluride. We'll look at a picture of that a little bit later. So that's some of the peripheral stuff. Now we're really focusing on the Conquest zone. So here's actually going back to the copper target. Here's, we were drilling what we thought was a copper target based on 2021 drilling. What we did hit was these silicified breccias. And here's a picture of what we think is calaverite. Some people may think it's striated pyrite, but it's a very different color than the pyrite we normally get. We don't see a lot of striated pyrite at root stellar. And more importantly, it's not cubic. It's actually a tabular crystal, which is more akin to what some of the gold tellurides are. So it's hosted in because the green is caused by epidote alteration, but most of it's a lot of quartz in here, so it's sort of epidote tinged quartz, and we'll have to wait for the assays, but we believe this could be a little calaverite crystal. Again, we know we have a lot of tellurium in the drilling from 2021. Some of the highest drill holes with tellurium values were right next to this. Not a lot of gold, but perhaps the gold-bearing fluids are passing through that now tellurium-rich system, and hence the potential calaverite. So we're really going to focus in on the Conquest Zone. Now, there's several important things that we intersected in the Conquest Zone. Most importantly is what we call Dinguro banding. We'll have a look at that in the following slides. This is particularly hit in hole 34 down here at about 130 meters down hole, vertical depth of 110 meters. We also hit some visual gold or electrum in that hole, as well as some more tellurides. And again, tellurides we also hit in hole 33, along with a very wide zone, about 40 meters of hydrothermal brecciation. And at the bottom of that hole too, we hit a very large zone of manganese carbonate alteration, which we'll get into. So visible gold both at the top of hole number 26, and a little bit of an odd association, a little bit of calcite ornite flying around, but as well we see the crustiform, coliform banded quartz fragments or void fillings. Visible gold is associated with these ginguro banding, which we'll have a closer look at, and there's also gold telluride in hole number 33. So this is what ginguro banding looks like. It's this it's a crustiform, coliform banded quartz veins. These are some of the best banded quartz veins we've seen so far at Root and Cellar. And this is the first time we've seen what we call ginguro banding. Ginguro banding is very black bands. So you can see little parts of that almost sinking into the quartz veins. In typical systems, these are very silver rich. The dark minerals typically nominite or acanthite. And then you get gold bearing minerals or native gold or electrum along that. So we don't know what's in here yet. We'll have to wait for analysis. But certainly when you zoom in to that, and this zoom in photograph is taken from right here on this rock sample. You can see it's about half a centimeter wide. You got this band of blackish purple metallic mineral, which I'm not sure what it is, but we believe it's a silver bearing mineral, which would be very consistent with the typical ginguro bands in these systems. And then within that, you either have pyrite rich bands, or perhaps these are electrum or other minerals, or pyrite with electrum. But these are true ginguro bands. Say we'll wait for the analysis, but these are some sort of metallic sulfide, gray sulfide in here, along with pyrite or something else, creating a more brassy colored layers. So this is the first time we have seen ginguro banding at Root and Cellar. It's very important because that's what's typically going to be bringing in your precious metals in epithermal systems. They're very diagnostic of epithermal systems, so if there's any doubt that this is a low sulfidation system, this totally confirms that it is. And so quite a nice quartz vein in the second to last hole of the program. Here's one of the larger ginguro bandings. You see another little quartz vein within here with the development of ginguro on the outside. So very exciting and positive to see this ginguro band on these quartz veins. And I encourage you to take time and Google these and look them up, because they're very, very prominent in low sulfidation epithermal gold systems. And when you get enough of these bandings, you can bring in a lot of high values of your precious metals. Again, within that same hole, you see again this banded quartz vein. This is what we call crustiform, coliform banded quartz veins. They were indicative again of the boiling zones and very characteristics of low sulfidation systems. You don't need a lot of sulfide in these quartz banded veins, these banded quartz veins to bring in your precious metals. But we'll wait to see what the assays say. But we do have within that same interval, there's a 3.3 meter interval where we saw numerous coliform, crustiform banded quartz vein, that's like you're seeing here, along with the ginguro banding. And in one of those, you see what looks like krennerite. Krennerite, again, is one of the gold telluride minerals. It's very prismatic, it's striated. It could be some other things, but based on its shape and morphology, we believe it is krennerite. What this other stuff is, whether it's very fine grained pyrite or more tellurides, the assays, we'll have to wait for the assays, but this certainly looks like krennerite. So we know we got tellurium in the system from past assays. We haven't really locked onto any gold tellurides visually in the core, and this, again, maybe one of the first indications of gold tellurides in drill core at Root and Cellar. Just moving on again, hole 33. This was drilled essentially in a different direction, and underneath hole 16 from 2023, where we get that oatmeal breccia, which some of you may recall. But this hole, similar, but a lot more bladed pyrite and a lot more free quartz. And we know that critical ingredients to the gold at Root and Cellar and a lot of deposits is not only silicification, but quartz. We see a lot more quartz in this for almost 40 meters, not quite continuous, few short intervals of barren looking rock, but otherwise an intercept from about 4 to 40 meters depth with a lot of solicitation, a lot of quartz veining, and a lot of bladed pyrite. You can sort of see it in here in some of these quartz veins, cutting these extremely altered rhyolites. You can see a zoom in here, the bladed pyrite. Here's one we call a quartz vein breccia. So again, quartz that's been highly brecciated. And again, the matrix of that has a lot of disseminated sulfides. And again, within that intercept, we have what very much looks like a crystal of calaverite. It's actually still under a thin film of the quartz veining. It's not quite reached the cut surface. A lot of this other things are pyrite, but you can clearly see both the euhedral shape of that crystal plus these striations, and it tells us that this is probably calaverite, which again was one of the other gold telluride. Hole 26 was quite interesting because, first of all, I think we hit a little bit of visible gold at the top of the hole, where we see numerous of void fillings of weakly clusterform, colloform banded quartz. Some of this was associated with minor chalcopyrite, bornite, plus or minus rhodonite mineralization, and one of them had a little fleck of visible gold. Deeper down, on the real purpose of that drill hole was to undercut hole 16 that we drilled in 2023, the oatmeal breccia hole. And we did hit hydrothermal breccias beneath that, I think about 2.5 meters width, a little bit of mineralization represented by these red diamonds. These are all intercepts of mineralized hydrothermal breccias or veins. The smaller ones are more weakly mineralized, so a lot of chlorite, some silicification, but pyrite. But a thin intercept below hole number 16 from 2023. And again, more importantly, we hit something that looks like the south wall or another structure in the Conquest zone. This was at about a 200-meter depth. Again, weak to moderate, clearly hydrothermal features, a lot of silicification, pyrite, chloride alteration, which we tend to see associated with these near surface epithermal mineralized structures. So this appears to be, as I say, a new structure which you can see on the geophysics, but it's actually capped off by barren basalts when it gets near to surface. So there's not a lot of surface expression of it at least being mineralized. But at depth, we appear to be intersecting, and that seems to match this cross section to the magnetic flow. Hole 27, which was drilled underneath hole 26, again, it hit long intervals of minor, some trace amounts of chalcopyrite, bornite, plus or minus molybdenite. We think that copper mineralization may be a hangover from the pre-existing copper porphyry, which we know is somewhere in the area, and the gold is overprinting that. Then at depth, it didn't hit anything significant representative of epithermal, but we think now there's a fault here that we thought at one point this may be just a flexure in the structure, and maybe this would actually be the better portion of the quartz vein system. But it actually looks like now it's been sliced off, and it may actually continue at depth on the other side of this fault. As you can see, the orientations of both sides of this sort of V-shaped structure up here mimics what we see down below. The deep hole, hole 24, which intersected that elbow at depth, hit a lot of very strong manganese carbonate alteration, and some other manganese is important. It's often associated with some of these high-grade, low sulfidation epithermal occurrences. Some quartz fragments, which appear to be crudely banded with some manganese, a little pink tinge to them. So we believe this was actually targeting a north-south structure, hence it was drilled into this image. But it may have been actually being parallel to the structure that now we realize we really want. And so we really want to turn this drill hole around and come through this system, because certainly this type of carbonate alteration, it's very, again, I know one of the classic alteration halos to an epithermal system, where the outer halo, the propylitic zone, has a lot of carbonate alteration. And we haven't seen too many places other than at Windfall where we see this strength of carbonate alteration. And so we believe this is indicating close proximity to one of the main trunks of the epithermal system. So the next steps really is to do downhole surveys. The casing is still into many of these drill holes. We drop a camera down that does 360-degree sort of picture of the drill hole. It measures the orientations of all these structures, including obviously the Ginguro quartz vein structure, which is located right here. So we'll do, as soon as we can, we'll conduct a downhole structural survey, and that will be very important into guiding the next drill program, which we hope to get underway as soon as we can after that structural survey, so later on, late summer or early fall. And so just to kind of place some of this, that Ginguro banding was here. The hole was drilled 34 from the southwest towards the northeast, towards hole number 2 from 2021, which only hit moderate grade, but no indication of Ginguro banding or even clusterform veinings yet. 100 meters down and slightly off to one side, we always thought we had north-south structures here. In 2021, we're drilling more the east-west, but we believe there's some north-south structures cutting through here, and that's what we believe we hit in this hole 34 from this drill program. So very keen to get back into this area, find out the orientation of that, and just keep following that Ginguro banding to depth. So that's really it. If you have any further questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Awesome, man. So I just got a couple questions for you myself. First one, I know everybody and their brothers looking for assay results. I see it online. I see it when I talk to people. I know you mentioned them a couple times today, but when? What's the timeline? What are we looking at for getting those back?
Yeah, we don't really know it's going to be. Typically, turnaround time is 4 to 8 weeks once you get a batch in. So there's several batches have gone in throughout the program. It's obviously summertime too. A lot of samples going in. A lot of people on holiday. I imagine, hopefully by the end of August we start getting at least some of the early large batches in place. But it's really anybody's guess and somewhat out of control. But I imagine between mid to probably even the end of August we'll start seeing the first batches come in. And we are analyzing it by a slightly different package this time, which I don't know put some extension on it or not. Probably not, but. We wanted, based on the importance of tellurium in the system here, the PASH detection limit was 10 ppm, which is quite high. We wanted to drop that down to 1 so we can restart using tellurium as a pathfinder. And so we've sort of swapped the analytical package at this time, so we get much lower detection than some of the trace elements. But hopefully, end of August, when everybody's returning from holiday, we start getting some batches of assays back.
Great. No, appreciate that. And otherwise, I'll just ask you, what are you most excited about for the rest of the summer?
This Ginguro banding is just, we haven't seen it before. So again, it's kind of beginning to tap into the right parts of the system. It's telling us it's low sulfidation. It's telling us we're boiling zone. Typically, we get some pretty high precious metal values in these systems, especially when you start building up those Ginguro bands. So that was really exciting to see. It's very meaningful to people that understand these systems, and it was, exciting to see these true low sulfidation textures and how close they were to previous drill holes. And this is what's important to remember: you can be so close, but just miss these things. And now we're beginning to come back and find evidence of, the boiling zone in I wouldn't say new portions of the Conquest zone that we drilled there, but they are around. We know we have one upflow zone, sort of the western end of that trench, and we believe this is marking another one. We know we have similar structures, just 100 meters east to that, which now, having seen this Ginguro banding, I think there's more in that area. So very keen to get back to drilling as soon as we can and keep following this Ginguro vein system along strike into depth and try to pick up a few more.
Awesome. Well, Ian, thanks so much for sharing this with us today, especially given you've just gone through some dental surgery. Really appreciate your time. And if anybody has any additional questions, please send them in. I'll make sure the Northern Shield team gets them as soon as possible and can get back to you. But otherwise, have a great day.